Hello, we're going to look over Tutum today. Tutum is as they describe it, is a container platform for Docker. Their line is experience the simplicity of a PaaS with none of its constraints. Enjoy the flexibility of an infrastructure as a service, none of its complexity. It's really interesting the way this service works. It's all built around using Docker to shuffle different services around. They have their own vocabulary and their own setup, so you can't just you have to familiar yourself with what they are doing, or else you might not make the right decisions. It's not that complicated. If you ever did any kind of system architecture, it's not really that complicated, but it does take a second. It's a virtualized architecture, so it's very similar to if you've ever used any of the virtual architecture. So it has a cluster of nodes, and a node is a Linux instance or VPS or whatever it is. Containers are your Docker containers, moving around, links between containers. Then volumes are something you can link to from different containers. Volumes are just disk stores on different nodes. And then services are a group of containers, which like MySQL is a service. Or the services are really the main piece. Nodes and services are the main two pieces you will work with. Containers are more used the Docker pieces to deploy the code, but a lot of that's managed for you. You don't have to do much management there. So let's get in and make some. What we're going to do is this is Tutum's dashboard. What we're going to do is we're going to actually do a pseudo high availability WordPress install. That means we're going to have a MySQL database, multiple WordPress instances, and HTTP proxy to load balance across multiple, using multiple nodes altogether. So that means we're going to do all that without ever touching command line, which is good or bad depending who you are. Some things about Tutum that before we get started that we're not going to dive into: repositories. This allows you to integrate with your own custom Docker repository. So they'll do a hosted Docker repository and integrates with GitHub pretty easily. Some cool stuff, and then we'll go over Stacks. But Stacks is, basically let's show you what a stack is. A version of a stack they have. So this is a version of a stack. So this is launches Python and Redis. So it has a Python instance and a Redis instance, and some configuration and linking between them. So that if you had a file, so this would be great if you had if you want to reuse a file for setting up different services. But we're not going to do any of that. We're going to do things the point and click way. So first, we need to create nodes. We're going to, I had this node cluster already called WordPress I created. Right now we have no nodes in it. I'm going to delete all the nodes out of it. So what we're going to do, I'm going to launch 4 nodes. And if you look here for a second, before I apply it, you can see that, actually I'm going to apply it, I'll talk about it. You can see that this is set for DigitalOcean, the New York 2 data center, 512 instances. So it's going to set up 4 different instances like that. And if we go over to DigitalOcean, you can see the droplets. Now there's 4 droplets in there from Tutum that are running. They're just getting set up, kind of smaller ones. What that means is that actually VPSs, you can manage everything you can do for DigitalOcean. You can go in there and SSH to them. You can do anything you want to them. They're actually instances of your VPSs running. I wouldn't recommend that because the hosts are the bottom. The nodes are the bottom layer. It actually sets up the services on top of that, and you really want to go into the services layer, which are the instances of Docker. That's the layer you really want to mess with. So these are running. They're deploying the servers. It takes a little bit of time. While they're running, getting started up, we're going to create some services. So since this is a MySQL, we're going to do a WordPress with MySQL and HTTP proxy. So let's start with setting up your MySQL instance. Just like to name it something fun. Cool things when doing services, this is all into a Docker. So if I actually go to this, I can link to this repository, which is on Docker's website. I can say, okay, actually shows you everything about the Docker. So you can run this same Docker file outside of Tutum. You don't have to have Tutum, but Tutum just supplies these versions in their own repository. Before I go into that, I want to show a little bit more about the services. So this is really cool. Is Tutum has their jump starts, which means they're just predefined setups, so you can just launch really quickly. So for example, we're going to do MySQL, we will do HTTP proxy, and we will do WordPress. But we could throw in the Redis and link to that. If you can throw in stuff like Tomcat, JBoss in here, all sorts of different applications. These are quick ones that you probably wouldn't use these for production. These are more for just playing around, and maybe if you want to like start with their version and add on to their Docker files. It also searches for Docker Hub. For example, if I want to install Cassandra, I could go pull the Docker Hub Cassandra instance, install Cassandra running, which is really cool because there aren't a lot of options for hosted Cassandra. So this is something you could do to throw up a hosted Cassandra instance really quickly. And I'll also can read from your private repositories and GitHub, I mean. But we're not doing that. We're going to do the easy way because that's what we do. And you put multiple tags. We're just going to do the latest because that's what we're doing. If you wanted to go across multiple nodes, we could do that, but like how it deploys across the multiple nodes. But since we're doing just a single instance of MySQL, it doesn't really matter. So we're just going to do empty. Since we're only deploying one container. Deploy tags. So these are like if you wanted to say only deploy to servers or nodes with this tag. So if you wanted to have here are the tags that we have. I don't have any right now. So provider DigitalOcean. So only go to providers that are DigitalOcean. So if you had a node cluster with servers in multiple data centers, you could actually say which data center you wanted to deploy to, which is really cool. So truly high availability stuff. All right. So one thing we do want to do is change environmental variables. We're going to set the MySQL password. Everything else will link automatically between the MySQL instance, the WordPress instance, but password you have to enter manually. I found out. I'm not sure why, but everything else works. That's it. So we're going to configuration. Okay, so deploying nodes should be deployed by now. It's still deploying. That's why it's taking so long. So we can go into one of these nodes that are deployed and kind of look at it real quick. I can give you the overview. So these will tell you what containers are deployed. We'll look at this again and what endpoints are on there. You can monitor CPU usage, which is pretty cool, on memory usage, and then you kind of see what's going on. Like it'll, tell you everything that's going on. So he's running 4 nodes, it's still running. It should though. I guess it explains that it has no cluster has to be up and running before it will let me deploy, which is a bummer. So we will pause and go back. Okay, we're back and everything is deployed. So let's go back to our service here and let's launch it. Okay, let's start over since that's just the way it goes. It's fine, one container. It's great. Environment variable to our top secret password. You could also, if you wanted to, let this run and randomly generate a password, and then when you go create the WordPress instance, take the password it created because it'll show it to you, and then you could use that. But we're not going to do that just because it's easier this way. Did I save it? I did not. Password. Create deploy. Go. Bam. So this is loading up the service. Let it run for a bit, then we can go back and look at what it's doing, but it's going to take a while to start it. Let's go back to services and create another service. This time we're going to create WordPress itself. This is just a application server. I think it's running Apache. It might be running Nginx. I actually don't know. But we're going to run 4 containers, 4 versions of it. We're going to load balance at high availability, so it's going to put 1 in every node. And we're not going to actually put. Usually, if you weren't using HTTP proxy or something, or you use one instance and you wouldn't publish it. So you'd publish it. So we're not publishing this port because we're going to link between the HTTP proxy instance and this one. But let's go back here and we can add the DB password. Actually, first we add the link to MySQL. We'll rename it to DB. this will link it to these names over here, the DB name, DB password. But for some reason, I still have to put in password. Everything else will link. So this will link automatically, this will link automatically, but nothing else will for some reason, which is fine. I'm sure I could fix that if I feel like it. So if you scroll down, you can actually see that all of the variables are in there. So you can use any of these variables configuration. A lot of stuff going on in here. And I'm barely touching the service, what's going on. So there's a lot of great documentation and guides that they were giving you. So we can go back into services and we can see we now have all these services running. We have MySQL is already running. Then we have the WordPress is running. So let's look at MySQL. See, we can actually drill down into the Docker instance, the container that's running. You can see information about it. It's where you can look at the logs, what's going on. This is kind of the log level you look at. You see everything's running now. Everything's tail.log. Very nice. Environmental variables, if you want to do it, you can change things from here. Any volumes you have, you can link between the volumes. So if you're running a file share or something, and you actually go right to the terminal if I wanted to. Oops, I did not mean to do that. No idea what that did. Okay. All right, that was fun. There's a terminal in there. I must have had some kind of I think I had some keyboard shortcuts messed up. Containers. So you see the logs. So now I'm back on the service level, and you see the logs are in here, are concatenated in here, and you can see everything that's going on with the services. So it's really more evident if you go into the WordPress stack. You see you have the 4 instances running, and if you drill down these, you should be able to see that they're running on different nodes. You can monitor the Docker instance itself to see how well it's doing. You can say, so anyways, let's go back up. 4 containers running. And you can see that the logs are all together. So you have 4 different logs. See, they're all logging in. So you see that. So they're all connected together. The last step we're going to do here is create an HA proxy instance. Let's go back to creating a service. And all this I could have done from the Tutum command line tool, but I'm just using the UI just to show you what it's like. So this is really easy. This is cool. So I can deploy it. It's going to do empty node. We only do 1 instance. We are going to publish port 80 and statically port 80. So that way we can access this via the web. Otherwise, you can't access it via the web, only via links between containers, which is pretty cool. Out of the box, it gives you really great security. You have to actually override it manually. And we give it full access to the API, and then we link it to the WordPress stackable. So this actually adds the links over to WordPress. And this stack is actually set up so everything works like out of the box. It's really cool. So let's create and deploy this service. It's running. You see over here that these 2 are private, but this is public endpoint. And then when you look at endpoints, actually, let's wait till it's up and running and you'll see it. Should only take a minute. Let's go over to the nodes. So that's loading. You can see the 4 nodes are running. Each of them have 1 or 2 containers. We can go to each of them and see that 1 WordPress, 1 MySQL. That one has running both of those 2. This one's running just WordPress, so we're having 1 WordPress in each node. So we're actually load balancing across the nodes. This is going to have the HA proxy and MySQL, and this one will have the endpoint HA proxy right here. So let's go. We can go into the container itself. See project container, and let's see. This is the one endpoint. So this has a public endpoint. So if we go to the public endpoint, see back to the web, and see now we're running WordPress. You can install it. So what I'm going to do is test blog. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's very weak. And email me if you want. Let's not index it. And it's going to install WordPress. There we go. Install WordPress. that's it. So as you see, I just installed a high availability WordPress instance.